Hello and welcome to another episode of The Understory. I'm Kelsey and today we will be interviewing Ben Goldsborough, the trailblazing Labour MP for South Norfolk who made history in 2024 by taking a rural seat from the Conservatives after nearly 80 years. We will unpack Ben's fierce advocacy to fix the controversial inheritance tax changes hitting family farms and explore his vision for fair immigration policies that strengthen community ties. Plus, we'll hit on his plans to tackle the housing crisis that young people face getting on the property ladder today. So, Ben, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Kelsey.
Oh, thank you for coming. Let's kick things off with your journey. So, from retail to Parliament.
I know, it's not a normal one. I can tell you that for free. It's most people, when you look at politicians, especially in Parliament, most of them are lawyers or something like that.
Or they've kind of been brought up in private education, kind of knowing that they would go down that route.
There's always that sort
always
of thing
planned
as
for
well.
them,
There's a lot of
typically.
planning going there, whereas my life has been a series of unplanned moments that have sort of directed me and cajoled me into
Makes it
certain
more
places.
exciting, I think. Maybe you're more experienced for the...
Well, if you ever want someone to fit you a car battery or wiper blade, I'm your man.
That's good to know. Get you an MP that could do everything.
I mean, how many MPs can probably do that?
Not
Well,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So there's always a backup for me.
I'll give you that.
It's,
multi-talented.
Well, I don't know about that one, but I can do.
So how did it
But
start?
yeah, well, it's like most people, you get a part-time job when you're 16, you want some pocket money and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
So
I remember that.
When I was first started out, I got a job at local Budgeons. I was working on the deli counter. That lasted about 6 months because I was on the night shifts, you see.
Oh.
It wasn't fun working till 10 o'clock and all that sort of
No,
stuff.
I can't imagine at that age.
And doing all this, and then going back to school the next day.
Oh.
And then it just happened to be that a new Halford store was opening up. And I was like, well, I like my cars, I like bikes and all that sort of stuff. So I applied for it. And I started out on the checkout, as you do,
Yeah.
little sort of 12 hours a week contract and everything like that. And I was doing my A-levels,
I was going to say, that's quite good while you're
all
doing your
that sort of
A-levels,
stuff.
juggling.
It was all good. And then the sort of big decision comes, what do you want to do after your A-levels?
What did you do in your A-levels then, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, so I did geography, history, and business studies.
Wow, okay. So what then? You had to decide where you were gonna go from there.
Well, that was the thing. So at that point, the school was like, you've got to go to university. Well, no one in my family has done that.
That was the same as mine.
Yeah, I bet. I bet it's the same story the world over for a lot of people. And I did apply. And I applied to do finance and accounting. No offence to people who are accountants as well,
thrilling.
but it's not,
Sorry.
sorry, people. But it was one of those things. It was just doing it because I thought I'd get a job out of it.
Yes.
It wasn't because I loved it.
And a good
or
job,
anything.
a well-paid job
yeah,
at least.
Yeah, it's a well-respected job and all that
Yes.
sort of stuff. But I absolutely bricked it when I saw how much it would cost me. Because, of course, you're a bit like, in my family, you're brought up that if you're getting into debt, it's to buy a house. Not potentially to go into education where you're not guaranteed an income or anything like that. So I decided that I'd put it on ice. So I didn't go to uni and I went full-time at Halfords.
Okay.
And so I was loving it. I decided, because my mum's worked in retail all her life. She worked at the same Waitrose store for 47 years.
Wow.
Sorry, tell a lie. She had an 18-month break where she went to the Bury St Edmunds store, but still Waitrose.
I was going to say I wouldn't even call that a break.
I mean, it's exotic.
That's loyalty.
Tell me about
and content with what you're doing, I guess. So at that point, was you thinking, I'm quite happy with...
I thought, well, it worked out well for Mum.
Yeah.
Why don't I do the same thing? So I was like thinking, I'll try and go for being an area manager and all that sort of thing.
Oh.
And then Halfords made a load of redundancies. And it left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth because between me and my best mate at the moment, at that time, who would lose their job. And we didn't know for 6 weeks who was losing their job. And I didn't, am I going to be sofa surfing? Am I going to rely on like bank of mum and dad? And that filled me with so much worry. And
As it would.
No, and there's so many people still face that today. And I must admit, always people ask me, when were you made political? Then. Because my family has voted every which way. We are not from like a dyed-in-the-wool Labour family or anything like that. And I went, something's not quite right in the world if this much power is given to one side and the other side don't know what's going on.
And nothing's still changing.
And nothing's changing. So that's then changed me, made me political. And at that time, my grandma sadly was passing away from cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And she was always a bit disappointed I never went to university. And she said, well, that money you've been saving to buy a house, use that to put yourself through university.
Okay.
So I did. And I went to Hull. Still one of the best cities in the UK. Everyone needs to visit Hull. Because that's what everyone says. You need to go to Hull.
It's really off the radar, isn't it?
Honestly, the city centre looks amazing. You've got the Deep, which is this amazing aquarium.
Okay.
And obviously Chip Spice. Now, I'm just going to leave you to research what Chip Spice is.
I was going to say, I've got no idea, but I'll take your word for it and I'll have a little look.
Only Hull does it. And honestly, it tastes sensation, as I'd say. It's
interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to leave you on a cliff edge on that one.
You've built that up now, so it better not disappoint. Okay.
But yeah.
So that's how you ended up getting political.
That's how I ended up getting political and how I ended up going from retail into that sort of line.
So what did you study when you went to university?
Well, because I've been made political, it sounds like a made-up title, I must admit. It was called British Politics and Legislative Studies. So it was a 4-year degree.
Specialised in the whole.
Really, really. And it's specialised in terms of most politics degrees are politics, whereas this one was so focused on just how Parliament works, how you pass a law, British politics in terms of its evolution over time.
Okay.
And because it was a 4-year degree, so the reason why I did it was because I knew someone from my background will find it very hard to get into politics, because it is one of the worst places for, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
And that is exactly why I am going to university and studying politics as we speak.
Yes, exactly. Because for those of us from backgrounds that don't have like dynasties in politics and all that, so you've got to hammer your way through.
You've got to know what you're talking about. You've got to be able to back it, because like you said, we don't have necessarily the connections. We don't have the who you know. So we need to come fully prepared to be taken more seriously.
Yeah. And you sometimes got to be a little bit bolsher over things as well, to make sure your voice is heard.
I agree. Yeah, I agree completely.
But so it was a 4 year. So I got 1 year, which was on placement with a member of Parliament in Westminster. I got to work with them.
That was interesting to see.
Absolute eye opener. It was. So
to know what you're actually walking into, because like you said, watching it is probably very different to actually being there.
Yeah. The one thing I would say is that if anyone really wants an idea of how politics works, watch The Thick of It by Amanda Iannucci, and also watch Yes Minister.
Okay.
Because still to this day, that is how...
On my notes to watch when I get home today.
That is just how politics works in Britain.
Perfect.
It's a carry-on every single 2 seconds.
So the October 2024 budget introduced inheritance tax changes. So taxing farms over 1 million at 20% from April 2026 to curb loopholes. Critics via the NFU's Stop the Family Farm Tax petition warn of forced land sales. South Norfolk farmers are vocal about high land values worsening the inheritance tax impact. What are their top concerns, and how did you amplify them in the February debate at Westminster Hall?
Yeah, so as you'd imagine, with being a rural MP, I'm going to be quite keen to ensure that I defend the rights and the interests.
You'd like to think so. That's good to hear.
You would hope so, wouldn't you? So that sometimes means that you have to be a bit of a critical friend to your own party.
Yes.
And this is one thing that I've always said to my own side, that with the Labour government, is I'm on the ground hearing every single time I meet with my farmers what the reality is.
Yes.
And we can pontificate a lot about what it says if you put this figure into a spreadsheet and this number might pop out and it says that only this number of people will be impacted by the changes to agricultural property relief and business property relief. But the reality is a bit different. And the reason for why is obviously, being in Norfolk, our land values are very high because we've got very productive land.
Yes.
Our farms are a lot bigger as well, you know, and especially not as much in Norfolk, but if you go over to the Fens, you'll see how large the plots are being farmed over there.
Yep.
Of course, when you get into larger plot sizes...
And Suffolk as well.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That Suffolk, Norfolk and Cambridgeshire, we are, as much as, you know, Kent likes to say it's the breadbasket of the UK, let's be honest, it's East Anglia.
It is. I put it in as East Anglia. But then I'm biased.
I mean, we all a little bit are. But, but the reason why this causes headaches is obviously the old system of 0% inheritance tax for farms has encouraged farmers to not plan for the future, because they'll just go, well, when dad or mum passes away, it will just be passed on. We don't have to think about it. So in actual fact, the old system has created the problem that we're now trying to address, which is there hasn't been family planning, which means that we've not seen longevity within family farms as well, because we've got ourselves into this situation now where younger generations aren't going into. I think the average age of a farmer now is about 60 in the UK.
Yeah, it was around 60.
So it's that lack of handing over has caused these problems. And then the other question you have to ask yourself is, the current proposal is to give a 50% discount to inheritance tax, so making them actually come under inheritance. At the moment you pay 40% inheritance tax. That would, as you say in the intro there, 20%. Now I don't know about you, but that's still a benefit to those who want to use the tax system efficiently. So we might get the people like the James Dysons of this world saying, well, 20% is still lower than 40%, so I'm going to carry on misusing APR and BPR. So what I believe is that we should actually have it out on a level playing field of 40%, but the protections in place for the family farm to be able to be passed on to the next generation.
Okay. So how would that work exactly? So these are these are suggested tweaks kind of on the threshold or the shorter taper for older farmers that you was talking about? Yeah,
so that was back in the debate way back when. This goes to show how much time has changed and how much sort of ideas have changed as well, because back then we were talking about, is there a taper rate, meaning that as you are, say if you're 87, then you would have to pay over 4 years less inheritance tax if you passed away within that time. There was also the argument that it would be at different percentages and all that sort of thing. We've now moved away from that idea.
That makes it quite complicated, doesn't it?
It makes it complicated. You could go around and find out everyone's age and to start off with, and more loopholes. And the more complicated you make the tax system, the more people are going to use it to get around it. So there was this report that was produced by the Centre for Tax Reform, which is quite a left-wing sort of institution, to be honest with you. It's hardly someone that's going to be bashing the Labour government every 2 seconds. Now, I won't go into the full details on the podcast because it's a chunky document.
We'll be here a while.
And I don't want your listeners to be bored to tears either, because
you can send that to me privately. We have interesting ideas of fun, you and I.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So the thing with this report, though, is that the long and short of it is you can reform inheritance tax on farms and businesses.
Okay.
Which would close the loopholes to those who are using it for incorrect purposes. But also, if you put the few changes in that the Centre for Tax Reform was saying, you would actually be able to raise 75% more revenue. So not only are you protecting the things you want to protect, you also get more revenue for the tax man, which is a win-win for everyone involved.
Yes.
So that's now where we're at in terms of the next campaign, is to actually to see if we can get the government to accept the reforms produced by the man himself, Dan Needle, who runs that organisation. And that is where we need to go next.
Okay. What updates or mitigations is the government exploring, and how can Labour protect family farms while fixing public finances?
So there's a couple of different ways of looking at it. There's obviously just the inheritance tax side of stuff, but there's also profitability in farming. It doesn't exist at the moment.
No.
It's an absolute nightmare. You know, we've got this sort of unholy alliance of what's happened within the agriculture sector, is that whereas before, you know, when we were a member of the EU, obviously our trade was within that block over food, so we were protected from world prices and shocks. And so say if we had a bad year, as we had this year in terms of yields are terrible. I think the only crop that did well this year was grapes. Which last time I checked, not many people have actually grown vineyards. So it's
but I don't think we're known for our vineyards exactly.
I mean,
here,
it's
are we?
up and coming. To be honest with you, we've got some amazing vineyards in South Norfolk, but there's only about 3 of them. So it's not like it's going to keep our agricultural economy going.
Not quite.
But whereas we were in this situation of the whole of Europe has the same weather pretty much, so we would have all seen prices go up because, say, if grain goes down in yields, obviously there's less grain but still more demand, so prices will go up. Now we've left the European Union, obviously we're dealing with world prices, and that means that we're dealing with weather situations elsewhere. So whereas yields are down in the United Kingdom this year, that's not the case elsewhere. So sadly, our farmers are now operating at world prices for grain. So whereas before they could have expected, well, yields are down, prices will be up, now yields are down, prices are down because elsewhere has had good yields. Yeah. So one of the things that we need to, go back to your actual question before I've waffled on, but the reason why I've waffled on is because we need to get that profitability into farming. And that's also in terms of how we design the schemes, because if we actually paid the price of how much it costs to bake a loaf of bread in the supermarket, it would be a lot higher than what it is now. Obviously, all food in the supermarket is subsidised, and that subsidy is through grants to our farmers. So there's this thing called the Sustainable Farming Incentive. That's now ended. It will be replaced by a new scheme. We've got the ELM system as well, another grant that's given to our farmers. And we need to reimagine how those are working to get that profitability back to our farmers. Because if we can make them profitable, they can be handed over to the next generation, and
I was going to say that's probably another problem with young people not wanting to jump in. They can see that it's not a strong industry at the moment, the amount of issues that are arising. I can see why people would be hesitant to take on that from their parents or whoever. I
don't know about you, Kelsey, but if someone said to you, you've got to work every hour God sends, and by the end of it, you might actually have less money than when you started with. You
no, thank you, sir.
I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, I'll leave that be.
Kindly pass on that offer.
Yeah. So we know that most people who farm are doing it because they love farming.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we're at risk of losing, because a generation will just go, I'm tapping out now.
Yeah.
But as much as I love it, I can't put food on the table. It's
probably one of the last things we've got left in the UK that we actually produce, isn't it, really, as our agriculture kind of industry. We don't, have that big industrial industry anymore. We don't make anything. So that's the one kind of thing we've got left going for us, is being able to produce food.
Yeah. And at the moment, we're about 60% self-sufficient. So 40% of our food is imported at the moment. 60% is grown by us.
At this rate,
it's gonna... And we need to protect that.
Yeah.
And there's other things we need to do as well in terms of how we support the family farm.
Yes.
There's things that we used to, like all of us who've grown up in Norfolk, for example, will remember that if you were going to Hunstanton for a little weekend break or something like that, you were driving past King's Lynn. There used to be the pea freezing factory there.
Yeah.
Well, that's really important that we've lost that, because what it shows is we don't have value added in the food chain anymore. Now, value added literally means instead of just growing the stuff, we then turn the potatoes into crisps or into French fries or whatever. And every step you add more money, which means there's more money going back into farming.
Factories are closed, closed loads of places.
And it's all being sent overseas. And this is something we need to be really worried about, because the more we send this value added, the more money we're taking out of agriculture. So it's anher thing we need to look at.
I agree, it is something we need to be concerned about. If you look at what happened after we went from the kind of industrial industry into consumer service, we have lost a lot of our self-sufficiency in like I said, what do we produce in terms of manufacturing? Nowhere near as much as we used to.
No.
So I can see that happening with the agricultural side, unless people pay specific attention now before it's too late.
Exactly.
And it, like you said, the next generation just says, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah.
There's no money in it. It's a lot of hassle. I think I'll go this way. Yeah. How do you counter critics like Conservative MPs claiming this ends family farms, and what is your pitch for cross-party solutions?
I think that's a really important part there, is it's cross-party solutions, because if we carry on... The thing that made me very sad about the debate that I led on behalf of the Petitions Committee is if the opposition Conservative MPs would listen to what I said, they would have noticed that I was actually being, in their eyes, critical of the government, and therefore they probably would have wanted to be cheering me on. But because they had come in with preconceptions that he is a Labour MP talking about a Labour Party policy in a Labour government, they never listened to anything I said, which meant that we lost that ability on that day to have a grown-up debate about the policy, not about the politics. And the thing that I'm really grateful for is that when you've got the NFU or the CLA, they are trying to work cross-party.
Yes.
They're trying to take the heat out of a very could be toxic issue. We've seen in France what happens when their equivalent of the NFU wasn't able to direct the anger of their farmers in a proactive way. We saw muck being spread on their main motorways, closures and everything like that. Whereas the NFU in the UK has been able to say, right, we're going to do this through protest on Parliament Square, writing to your MP, making sure your MP comes on the farm, that sort of thing. And the thing that worries me is, again, I think it's more of a sign of where and this is political, I'm sorry.
Don't be.
It's more of a sign of where the Conservative Party is right now, that they are desperately trying to find a reason to exist anymore.
Okay.
And they're going, oh, what was our heartlands? Our heartlands were rural England. So farmers love us, then we'll just talk about that. But what they're not doing is, why did farmers used to support, because they don't anymore, why did they used to support you? Why aren't you listening anymore to the things that they're concerned about? And the longer that goes on within the Conservative Party, the less likely we are to have cross-party consensus, and the more likely we are to have votes which are forced in the House which don't do anything but just look very good on paper.
And then basically no one gets anywhere.
People get to feel good about themselves that they've had a rant on social media.
Feeling good about themselves doesn't equal solving the problem, unfortunately, does it?
And it does not help our farmers, which at the end of the day, all of us who are concerned about making sure agriculture is kept as one of the most important sectors within the United Kingdom would do well to think of that first instead of where's some votes coming from.
Well, I trust you will carry on doing what you're doing to try and get them that cross-party collaboration, or at least get them to try and listen.
That's all you can do. But
do you need someone to come and shout behind you with like some signs and things?
With some placards and
I'm
things
really
like that.
loud.
You could always do that, yeah.
You could do that.
Give it a try.
Is there a job like that, like a full-time heckler?
I mean, there's that bloke who dresses up like the EU flag outside Parliament. I think that's his full-time job.
I think that'll work a treat. I don't know how serious people will take you, but
I mean, if you've got the full outfit, I mean,
I'm going to have the outfit now. I can't not have the outfit.
There's that whole thing is like the white coat syndrome, isn't it? Like if you see someone who looks official, then you pay attention to them.
Exactly.
So get you the hat, the bell, you're well away.
There we go.
Yeah.
And then I'll just stand behind you with my bell. Jobs are good in.
Sorted.
They won't have a choice but to listen, will they? Oh no, I'm going to be the Westminster crier. Okay, so
we've gone down a rabbit hole here.
Yeah, we went really off. That's me. I always tend to go on a tangent. Labour's May immigration white paper aims to cut net migration, link it to skills training and boost integration, with a 10-year settlement route for some visas. You have expressed your support for stronger borders this month, and you opened a debate on ILR petitions for skilled workers and Hong Kong BNO visa holders. So in May 2025, you backed a controlled system to prevent exploitation and foster stronger, united communities. What integration measures do you champion?
So this is the whole thing that I think we're in a political bind as a country right now.
Yeah, you could say that.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because when you come up to the word migration, immigration, asylum, you can find that a lot of people are triggered. We've moved away. This is the thing that really worries me. We've moved away from having grown-up debates about this, because we do need to have grown-up debates, because we need to be talking about what benefits us as a country, what doesn't benefit as a country, the reality of the situation on the ground. Because at the moment what we've done is we've allowed for so much heat and no light to come into this. So for me, if we're talking about integration, we do need to be talking about things like what are people actually giving back to their local communities. It was a really important point that was made in that debate, which, if someone's applying for indefinite leave to remain, and then eventually you would hope that if they achieve that, they'd then want to apply for British citizenship, because that shows that they love the country, they've settled down, they've integrated and everything like that. We need to be a little bit more smarter in terms of how that application process. Well, I would like it to be seen that we see how much people give back to their local communities, if they're volunteering, if they attend a church group or a village hall group or something like that. It'd be a smarter way at showing, and also it would encourage people to integrate within.
Just have they studied here, have they paid into taxes here, but have they actually, like you said, integrated within the community?
Exactly, and given back. Because the thing that I find, especially in South Norfolk, you'll find most people will be involved in some sort of voluntary group.
Yes.
Be it a village hall committee, the local allotment society, litter picking, local speed watch group.
I was just about to say that.
All these sort of things, great minds. All these sort of things. I think that's where we can help foster, because also it breaks down barriers on other sides as well. Because at the moment we've got to a situation where people are othering people.
That was what my first ever episode was on.
Was it really?
Was othering.
Yeah.
With Councillor Eileen Mulvaney.
And we need to stop that. And I'm a strong proponent in saying that we will keep making the mistakes of the past if we keep seeing people as not people. If we see people as statistics on a piece of paper with a title of migrant or asylum seeker.
But then I think a lot of problem is with misinformation or statistics, because the problem with statistics is you can use them, you can not alter, but take certain parts and use them towards any argument that you're supporting.
Yeah.
And as you said, with all this heat and not a lot of light coming in, I have seen some people, I wouldn't, maybe not as far as go to say radicalised, but how are very, it is becoming on the borderline of radicalised with their views. It's a stream of heat, passion and misinformation, and social media has just created this massive, or an even bigger divide at the moment, I feel.
No,
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're not interrupting at all. It's a really important point to make because it's very true. You know, the thing that I find really fascinating right now when we talk about screen time and social media, we always talk about children. We always say that we need to ban mobile phones, iPads, whatever, in the school environment, which I think is very important.
Yes.
I think we do need to, because when children's brains are developing at that age, being in contact with content that we don't know what is actually they're seeing,
I agree.
We need to protect them from that, and it is protecting them.
And what about the adults?
But exactly.
The amount that they're consuming as every day of these one-sided rhetorics or echo chambers that they're listening to, and then they're getting more heated, they're swallowing more of this hate. And
that's the thing that I think is we need to remember, that our brains never stop changing.
Yes.
And it's survival instinct. That's the reason why our brains never stop evolving over time, is because you learn, that was a nasty experience, I'm not going to do that again.
Creating new pathways all the time.
Exactly. And social media, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it nowadays, TikTok, but also YouTube, we don't talk enough about as well. I know of family friends who were very middle of the road politically. You know, that they'd rub along with everyone, not really worry about it. Then they started clicking through a couple of different things on Facebook, and then the algorithm starts pushing more of that content because they'll emoji, angry face emoji on it, or
even
they'll
to
comment.
the comments, they will even organise the comments so you see ones that align more with your ideologies than the other side. So it's almost like it gears you up more.
Yeah, and the thing with it as well is we've gotten, as you were saying earlier, you can make facts tell you anything. The thing I always try and remind people of is that is so true, because a perfect example I always give is you could argue that climate change is caused by pirates. If you got a graph and you put down the world temperature over time, and you say, it's going up, and then over the same timeline you said the number of pirates in the Caribbean has gone down, you can say, well, because we've got fewer pirates, the temperature has gone up. You can make data say anything you want. And the job of everyone, I think, in especially elected positions, is to try and use your facts wisely to navigate an argument around it. But also, we're humans. We deal with emotion. We are emotional animals. Our intelligence is driven by our emotion. We need to also tap into that aspect of people's lives as well. Because cold, hard statistics, people on my side of the argument that want to say immigration is actually a good thing for this country. It brings with it cultural benefits. It brings with it the economic benefits. We know that.
When done correctly.
Exactly. But it also gives us huge amounts of power on the world stage.
Yeah.
You know, but my argument can't just be, the GDP has gone up by 0.5. I need to be talking about actually, what does this mean to our community? Why is this a good thing? And that's where we need to get the argument too.
So not just the quantitative, but like the qualitative of it.
Yeah.
Okay, aspects of it. So I can never get them words out. The 10-year ILR route has sparked debate. How does it affect integration, and what's your take on balancing migrant well-being with system costs?
So the thing we need to remember with the skilled routes visa, and this is where we go get a bit technical and everything like that. These are people who have applied here.
I'm ready for it. Give me the technical.
Someone's got to be. So the people who have applied to come here for skills that we don't currently have ourselves as a country. So there are some issues with it that I have. For example, the one area where I think that it's not beneficial is where we've used the skill routes visa for social care, for example.
Yes.
Because that's where we've seen unscrupulous employers bring people over for that particular skill. and then they're being locked into that employer directly because they're obviously the person that has the pen over the skilled work visa. There's problems with modern slavery. We know that for sure.
Yeah.
That has been found out. Unison, the trade union, has got evidence on that. Also, the migrants. I cannot think what they're called. But anyway, they've done a load of research as well to find out these unscrupulous behaviours.
Okay.
But what we need to be making sure with this 5-year, as it currently is, route to indefinite leave to remain versus a 10-year proposed system, which we're looking at right now, is a sense of fair play, because that's very British. You know, it's these were the rules you applied to come into, therefore these are the rules you're going to be living by. Changing that halfway through the game, that sometimes feels to me like you're losing a game Monopoly and then you discover a new house rule that makes you win.
Yes.
Which isn't fair, and I don't think is very British. But the other aspect of it as well is, how do we keep those skills filled? Because we're talking about people in very highly skilled work, especially with that visa route in. So if we need more engineers, which is something we've got a shortage of, how would we fill those? Because a 10-year indefinite leave to remain pathway will be one of the highest in the world. You know, for example, in Canada, after about 6 months, you can start applying for indefinite leave to remain. So people are going to look to us and they're going to look to Canada and go, well, actually, Canada's a nicer place to go to. So are we then going to be cutting our nose off to spite our face?
And we can settle in and integrate over there quicker.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So at the moment it's 5-year, proposed to be 10.
Yeah, so there's a government white paper coming out this autumn, which will be for consultation, and people will be able to put in their 2 pence worth in. But there's other complicated aspects as well, because like you alluded to earlier on, the Hong Kong BNO, which stands for British Nationals Overseas, and we should not forget that, is because they are British nationals who live overseas.
Yes.
We have a moral duty to those people.
Of course.
We effectively colonised Hong Kong in the land swap for the treaty port that we had with China at the time. Those people were given our institutions of justice and democracy, and China came in, ripped up the agreement that we effectively had and the agreement they had with Hong Kongers. We've now had people that have lived in this country under that visa scheme, which have spoken outwardly against the Chinese regime. They can't go back home.
No.
They will disappear.
I was going to say if they can, but they won't be okay once they arrive there.
They will never see the light of day again.
Of course not.
We have seen that. We have seen what the Chinese Communist Party does to the Uyghur Muslims, for example.
Thank you so much for everyone that joined us today on The Understory. If you liked this episode, please give it a like, give it a share, and leave your comment in the section below. Tell us what you like, what you didn't like, or what you want to see next. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell so you can be notified whenever we drop a new video. Thanks for coming.